because you have to always stay agile and stay ready for something to change that you cannot control, yet you don't want that to impact your overall outcome. KPIs are crucial tools that organizations use to measure, to manage, and improve their overall performance, and to make sure that they are completely aligned with the business overall objectives. However, you can also use KPIs when it comes to maximizing your success. After all, you're the CEO of your own success. KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators, and it's the things that you look at to make sure that you are tracking along your success journey. For example, let's say that you want to double your sales. Well, a key KPI might be how many sales calls have you made. If you made 20 sales calls last year, and let's say you made $1 million, but your goal is to make $3 million in your business, does that suggest that you make 60 calls because that's 3 times the revenue? Or does it mean you might have to make at least 60, giving yourself the capacity to do 70 or 80 calls to make sure that you have a great opportunity to yield the $3 million, since there is some correlation, you believe, between the number of sales calls and the actual revenue that you're able to deliver. So you have to think about what are those things that actually impact whether or not you're going to be successful. Let's say that your goal is to cut costs by 20%. Then you got to think about what are the things that contribute to my cost line in my business. Oh, is it people? Is it the resources that we use? Is it the fact that we use a certain kind of transportation or a certain class of transportation? Maybe everybody flies first class. What happens if everybody flies economy? How might that impact your goal of saving 20, 30, 40% that year? So thinking through what are the things that enable you to be successful in that particular goal. That's why KPIs are important, because you cannot manage what you can't measure. That was a quote by the great Peter Drucker. And if you can't figure out how to measure it, then how can you possibly manage it? So think about your career, for example. Let's say you are a salesperson and your goal is to double your sales. That's the target. Well, the question is, how are you going to do that? Does that mean A, you have to make more sales calls, or B, you can make the same number of calls, but you have to increase the revenue associated with each of those calls? How might your existing customers play into that equation? Could you get them to increase their business with you by 15, 20%? How might that impact your overall goal to double the revenue that you delivered to the organization? But now you want to think about the ways that you can do that. Let's say there's no opportunity to increase the revenue with the customers that you already have, and you are solely dependent upon new customers. Now the question becomes, how many calls do you have to make in order to double the revenue? And the question is, do you have the capacity to do that, or do you need other people on your team to actually help you prosecute that endeavor? Does that mean you have to go to a different part of the country? Does that mean you have to now call on a different type of client? But those are the things that you have to think about in your KPIs. Do I need more time to make more calls, or do I now need to shift and go to a new category of clients? And what might my experience be there? It's also important that you think about the things that could go wrong. I call those things latent risks, those things that you have no control over. The boss changes, the sales targets might change. Some of your best clients may decide that they're no longer going to be in business. Thinking about those kinds of things are also important, because you have to always stay agile and stay ready for something to change that you cannot control, yet you don't want that to impact your overall outcome. Now, if it could, and it could make a huge difference in your outcome, when you're setting your goals, especially with your boss, you want to talk about the potential of things that could happen, that if they do, you need to agree that you might need to adjust your goals for that particular year. KPIs are critical, Because if you don't have them, you will find yourself after quarter one, after quarter two, and you may or may not have made any advance on your journey to be successful. But if you have these measurements, you can look at them once a week. You can look at them every other week, and you can course correct if the strategy that you have is not producing the result that you want. But if you don't have that, you won't have any way to measure it. And now you lower the probability that you're going to be able to achieve your goal. Let's say your goal is to get promoted. How might you think about KPIs? Does your promotion depend upon your having a certain set of skills? Does your promotion depend upon your having certain support within the organization? Does your promotion depend on your having a certain amount of revenue by your name? Now you know what those key indicators are, those things that will make the difference in your being successful. And now you can put a subset of indicators under those. How do you get to those particular things? How do you get the assignments that show that you have certain skills? How do you make sure that you get certain assignments that will allow you to have a certain amount of revenue by your name? How do you make sure that you get exposure to those key people that could be critical for the decision to promote you? And now, again, you put those plans against the calendar and you go forward to prosecuting. KPIs will help you stay on track and will help you maximize your success and achieve your goals in 2024. Go get them.